Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Onesies, the podcast where we talk about one season wonders and blunders. This is episode 3 of season 2, where we're discussing episodes 5 and 6 of Freaks and Geeks, the 1999 to 2000 NBC comedy drama about teens growing up in the 80s.
Yeah. First episode is called I'm with the Band. And I do not have the thing pulled up, but I can tell you that in I'm with the Band, Nick realizes that he wants to be a drummer, or else his father is going to make him join the army. And Lindsey butts in a little bit when she watches the band rehearse. The band is Nick on drums, Daniel on guitar, Ken on vocals, and Sean on bass. Sean is a character we've seen before, but we haven't talked about before. He's been on other episodes. He was one of the kids kind of bullying Eli in the first episode, and he's just kind of around. Lindsey gets Nick an audition with another band called Dimension, a local band, and it doesn't go so well for him. On the geek side of things, what is it? They have to take showers in gym. It's a new rule. And of course, Sam is shy about it, doesn't want to do it, tries to talk his friends into not doing it for a number of reasons. He doesn't want to get bullied is the biggest reason. And we get a call back to bullies. What's his name is back. I can't remember his name now.
Alan, I think.
Alan. Yes, you're right. Alan is back. There aren't kids named Alan anymore. It's a boomer name, I guess. No, maybe that's not boomer. That's Gen X, right? Yeah.
80 teenagers in 80. No, they would be
late boomers.
They'd be late boomers, maybe.
Okay. Anyway.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter.
What are your three?
I know an Alan. What are you talking about? I know an Alan.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's weird. You're weird. I knew an Alan. He was maybe 2 years older than me. That doesn't make him a boomer. Okay. My 3 things. Okay, here's one. We really aren't ever going to talk about the grope.
Nope.
Mr. Cute Shorts and a slab of beef. Yeah.
Okay, I think my boner killer is your Mr. Cute Shorts, but I'm going to stick with boner killer. Baba O'Reilly and Madness.
Okay. So is Baba O'Reilly first?
No, I think boner killer and
Mr. Cute Shorts
Mr. Cute Shorts is first.
It takes a while for Mr. Cute Shorts to get mentioned, but we see the shorts much earlier that Nick has to wear shorts when he's drumming because otherwise it's too hot. Oh, there was one other thing that the musical number thing with Millie and the other kid promoting Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then we find out that asshole math teacher from last episode is the musical director.
Yeah. Which I think is odd.
Especially given what we learn about things next episode. But yes. So, the episode opens with Nick. The cold open is just Nick drumming and his dad being exasperated with him.
So what I love about that scene is that what we hear is the actual track that he's listening to, the Rush song. I don't know what song it is. I hate Rush. But when the dad comes down the stairs, it cuts away, that sound cue goes away, and you hear Nick actually drumming, and he's terrible. And that comes back later when he's auditioning for the band. But I thought that was kind of funny. Like, he's in his own world. He's got his headphones on. He's jamming to Rush. He's drumming his little heart out. He's sweating. He's whatever. And dad comes down the stairs and you actually get to hear what he sounds like. And he's not great. I mean, I'm not a drummer. I couldn't do it. I dated a drummer once, but that did not give me any skills. And so it just kind of gives you a sense of, we've seen him be passionate about drumming before, but we haven't actually seen him doing it.
Yes, this is very much Nick's episode.
Mm-hmm.
But first we get Coach Biff telling the boys that they need to start showering. And I mean, most of my notes on that are super misogynist script and fat jokes. So
fat jokes, homophobia, a lot of homophobia, bullying based on all of those things. Yeah.
That's just pretty much all it is. And later on, there's a good punchline for that sort of subplot, but it's a long way. Well, there are a couple of good punchlines for it, which one of them is one of my three, but we will get to it. Oh, and then Naked Harris. That was
he was great.
that was something. But yeah, then after we set up the Geeks storyline with them needing to shower, we cut over to the band practice where Kim and Lindsey are watching the boys rock out, and they just think it's great. But nobody likes Lindsey's ideas for the band name.
Yeah, too smart.
The band's,
too clever. Yeah.
And so that's when we meet Nick's dad for real, and all Army dads on TV show are assholes. Mm-hmm. Is basically the thing. The dad's a familiar guest star. I didn't look up his name, but he's a very familiar character actor of the era. And one of his lines when Nick is explaining to him that he wants to be a drummer and what about his dreams, the dad's like, I wanted to go to space. You see any moon rocks around here?
Yeah.
Which was cool-ish. Like, I don't know. Nick strikes me as the guy running for Republican governor of Michigan next year. Like, that's what he grows up to be. So I have very little sympathy for this guy. Like, and I like Jason Segel well enough, but like, he's kind of whatever. So Lindsey is hanging out with him and now we get to my first point. She holds no hard feelings that he tried to grab her boobs once.
It's almost like it didn't even happen.
Also, something else that also didn't happen from that episode, Sweater's crush on her has disappeared.
Schreiber. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Sweater, because he always wears a sweater.
Yeah. And I think it'll come back if I'm not mistaken. It does come back. But yeah, it seems to go in and out.
Yes. She attracts the finest dudes of any age. But she applies her like mathletes experience and practice ethics and things like hard work ethic to what the band should be doing. So trying to inspire Nick in his pursuit to become a professional drummer and avoid the Army.
And the short game here is to get the band into the Battle of the Bands, to audition for the Battle of the Bands. And from what we see, they like just play one song terribly and they move on to something different, or they quit or whatever. That seems to be how it's going based on what we see. And like you said, she convinces him, you got to play the song over and over until you get it right. You have to keep playing it. Like, that's how you get it right. And once you perfect that song, you can use that to audition for Battle of the Bands. And like, that's how the way forward with this, which causes some strife later with the band. I don't know when we get to Mr. Cute Shorts.
That's in a bit. Before that, we've got the towel whipping, which is a nice tie-in to
nice callback
to Free Spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought the same thing.
But basically Sam is losing the battle to avoid showering. He ends up in the nurse's office at one point. Oh God, that's when Biff tells, what's his name, Neil, that he looks like a 50-year-old man.
Neil, put some clothes on. You look like a 50-year-old man. Because he's just like sauntering through with a towel wrapped around his waist. The thing is, everybody else has a towel wrapped around their waist. And he's so small. I don't know. I can see it, but it's also just a silly throwaway joke. It's so funny. What else from that scene. It's not till later that he
That's
actually
the naked Harris scene. Yeah.
Oh God, that is so funny. So Harris is just walking around, just presumably nude. Obviously, we don't see anything.
Yes, he is. Yes.
Um, and he's just perfectly comfortable having conversations. And it's just my body. Like, it's just my body. I'm happy to be here. I'm clean. We're having a conversation about me wanting to learn German because I'm German.
And I'm like, it's 1980. That's, a little too close still, dude. Like, okay. Too close.
When he's in line and he says, "Ich bin here," it's like, ugh, and Schreiber kind of is right next to him, kind of looks up at him, kind of gives him a goofy squint. It's really funny.
No, because whatever. It's fine. They're all in QAnon now anyway. It's fine. Except Bill. I refuse to think Bill went down that path.
Yeah.
But so then that plot is just sort of building up that Sam has got to figure this out at some point because Biff is on to him. But then we cut over. This is where we get to the big blow up where
Lindsey's exposed as the Yoko. I hate to use that reference because it's misogynistic, but she's called Yoko, I think, even by
she is called Yoko. And so we also established, and I think this came up earlier, is that Nick says Daniel doesn't care about being good. And Daniel says, I don't care. We do this.
This is fun. Yeah.
This is not like something that somebody's going to tell us we suck at. And so everybody quits the band. At some point, Daniel calls Nick Mr. Cute Shorts. And then
let me talk about boner. Let me talk about my boner killer. I thought those shorts were so unattractive. Him walking around in those shorts. I don't think that Jason Segel is attractive, but every once in a while it's like, oh, but then he's walking around in those shorts and I'm like, nah. I hate to objectify in this situation, but it just sort of like, it was really off-putting to me. This guy in these dorky shorts. I don't know. I know it's
Jack Trippers. It's his Jack Trippers.
It was such a boner killer moment for me.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a polite way to say this, and we'll decide whether or not it stays in the final cut. So you'll have to remember, he looks like he's Frankenstein's monster as a teenager in shorts.
Okay.
He's got like semi Boris Karloffy hair going on, like thing, like you could see it. It's just like,
I can see it.
Yeah. So he's really pale, and we see even more of the paleness. No, I just don't. Sorry, for some reason, him trying to grope Lindsey and being like, "I'm drunk, I can't be held responsible."
When he wasn't,
never going to forgive him for that.
Yeah. But she did.
So
I don't know.
She forgot, or it lost. It happened in an alternate universe.
Yeah, or she really thought she was drunk, and she really believed that he was drunk. Maybe they never explained to her that the beer wasn't real, so maybe she forgave him.
True. Yes, that is true. But anyway, that's when we get back to the geeks, where Neil's talking about how his mom says girls look like funny boys. And I think Bill says, yeah, but you're not funny.
Yeah, that was good. That was good, but that wasn't the best moment. There's the best Bill moment in this, because he's not heavily featured, right? He's just kind of support. They're sitting on a curb eating ice cream, and I don't know where in the plot this is.
That's this scene. Yeah, this is Bill's push-up.
Oh yeah, and they were watching Cindy get carried in, and a bunch of other cheerleaders but Cindy's getting carried into a house, like over the shoulder of some jock guy, and talking about, why do girls like the jocks and da 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 da. And Bill's got a push up. I think Neil's got a push up too, but he's like, oh, there's too much, or it's coming out hard, and he ends up like pushing it all out and putting it all in his mouth. And the other boys are like, ew, that's so gross. And he's having a really difficult time eating it. It is so stupid and so funny. I love it.
Martin
so
Starr's
much.
so good.
He's so good.
He's so good. There are no.
He is the best.
Physical,
he's the best part of this show. Hands down.
I mean, there's no. I don't even think in the stuff I've seen him, he does now. It's just mostly like he does deadpan stuff, but like he could really do a lot with the physical comedy because he does tons of physical comedy in this, lots of gags.
Yeah, it's great. But that's not part of the plot. That's just the best Bill part. I decided that I'm going to pick out the best Bill part of every episode and talk about that, regardless of it being in the plot. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you with
that's pretty much that scene. And then it's on to the Bob O'Reilly thing where we find out that Seth Rogen actually knows one or two things.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So in my mind, that scene, so Lindsey goes to school, she goes out into the smoking patio and nobody's there except for Seth Rogen, whose character name I keep forgetting. Ken, another old man name. And she asks, like, where is everybody? And she's trying to play it cool because she's been exposed as somebody who's broken up the band because she woke what's his name up to the fact that nobody else really cares. And he's the only one out there. And she's trying to justify it. Well, first of all, she's trying to play it cool. Like, hey, where is everybody? What's going on? And you can tell it's a little awkward. And he's like, hey, Lindsey. And he kind of confronts her about it. Like, why the fuck did you do that? Except he doesn't say fuck. But like, why did you do that? And she explains like, yeah, God forbid a band actually practice a song more than once before they play it. And she starts naming songs and bands. And she calls Baba O'Reilly Teenage Wasteland because I think a lot of people would confuse that because they never actually say Baba O'Reilly in the song. And it's a very pedantic teenager moment, like jerk, classic rock guy moment, like essentially comic book guy correcting her. It's called Baba O'Reilly and it's real snotty and it's perfect for his character. So I'm glad he was the one to do it because he's sort of that snide guy. I found that very annoying, but because it had nothing to do with the point she was making, but he had to be a pedant about it. Drove me absolutely crazy. Anyway.
No, I mean.
But again, he's a man. He's going to interrupt her and, try to cut her down any way possible.
We're at episode 5. I don't. If we actually had sincere friendships between the boys and the girls in this, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
At this, it's gonna be a shocker if that ever comes up.
Yeah.
But then actually Daniel shows up and he and Lindsey talk and he's like, yeah, but Nick sucks as a drummer. And Lindsey's
he's
like,
never
no,
gonna do it. Yeah.
And Lindsey's like, no, he's gotta be. You sound like his dad. And Daniel's like, well, his dad's right. Which, we know at this point, right? The episode established from go that Nick is not a good drummer. And so Lindsey, of course, is not going to give up. But before then is when we get that scene with Harris talking in German and Sam's hiding in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the stall. And the math teacher hears him and peeks over and tells him he needs to sit down and drop his pants to take a dump.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, God, it's so weird that for so long adults and teens use the same bathrooms in high schools. Like that's changed, but
yeah, creepy.
Probably never should have been.
Yeah.
So, and then we find out that Lindsey has found a local band that needs a drummer and she convinces Nick to audition. But before then, we are going to have the amazing slab of beef scene.
Oh, God, that was so funny. Lindsey, tell your brother he has a beautiful body. So he's concerned, obviously, because he's a small boy still. I mean, he hasn't hit puberty, I guess. He's very, very small. And so he's afraid of getting teased. Alan and has already, made cracks about how he's a girl, right? And so he's not as developed as other boys. So he's afraid. And he kind of tells his parents. I don't know how it comes up in the conversation.
I think we missed that part and we cut in on Dad talking about Dad's response, which is, plenty of guys have seen me naked and I'm not comfortable with any of them. You think I'm happy about that?
Yeah.
And I will say, Canada Joe is growing on me, because his outrageous dad joke statements they don't drag him out like they were before. Now he just is absurd for a little bit and then they have a response. But going right into
No, he's essentially just a setup for a joke. He's essentially a setup for a joke. And it's usually at his expense. The next episode one is my favorite one. But so then it's like your mom is like, you've got a beautiful body, like doing the mom thing. Like, you should be proud of your body. And it's so
the boys are just jealous.
The boys are just jealous. It's so mom. Like,
and Sam is mortified, but then they up the ante by demanding Lindsey tell Sam what a great body he's got.
And Lindsey's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But then they force her to. I think Dad's finally like, Lindsey, do it. Do what your mom says.
Tell your brother he has a beautiful body.
Yeah. And she does.
Referring to him at one point as a slab of beef.
Yes. And if I wasn't your sister, the things I'd do to you. And Dad's like, Lindsey, shut up.
Absolutely mortifying. Just so perfectly gross.
So gross.
And potentially the most personality Lindsey actually gets to show this episode.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah.
So then the next scene is Nick's audition with the grown-up band.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting bit about that. He saw them open for Jethro Tull, and they did great, and everybody liked them. And then one of the band guys says, "Really? Because we got booed off the stage the next night," which comes back later. And Nick struts into the audition and doesn't know the song they want to play. The one he wants to play, they says they hate it. The Cream song he wants, "Sunshine in My Life." They don't like that Cream song. They want to do another one. Nick doesn't know the drumming terminology.
Yeah, he knows the song, but I don't think he knows the technical terms.
Okay.
But they do want to play another Cream song, and I'm not a big Cream fan either. A lot of this classic rock stuff is nauseating.
Wasn't classic rock at the time.
That's true. Did you notice the cameo though in the band? Paul Feig. Paul Feig.
Oh, I don't know what he looks like.
Oh yeah.
I don't objectify men like some people on this podcast. Well, what kind of shorts was he wearing?
He wasn't. He was wearing jeans. I'm not objectifying him. I don't find him attractive, but he was the first guy that talks, the guitar player, I think.
Okay. No, I didn't. Sorry. Yeah, so he has his audition and he sucks. And
they make fun of him for having such a big kit.
That means number of drums and
the number of items on his drum kit. And because Nick thinks that having such a big kit means he's a good drummer, because Neil Peart has so many things on his drum kit. So they make fun of him, and he leaves tail between his legs, which is sad.
But it's all going to work out for him because he's a fucking white man. Ugh. And Lindsey feels bad that she encouraged someone without talent. And so the only way to make him feel better is to give him some kissy. Kissy.
I find it odd because I had a lot of guy friends in high school. And if they were ever feeling bad, I never felt the need to smooch on them. But I didn't have like romantic feelings toward them.
Your life also wasn't written by a bunch of dudes.
That's true.
So there is that this is like,
that's the larger point I was getting to, was like, it didn't seem very realistic unless she actually does have feelings for him. But we see in the next episode that maybe that's not the case.
Even in this episode, she's miserable being stuck with him at this point. At
the end. Yeah.
So it's just like, no, she's just awkward and doesn't know how to, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's like these two episodes have high points, and they have a lot of, they have like, the next one especially has some like, oh, this is problematic in a broad sense, but they're not like, they don't have the things like that I would pick on like before. But yeah, I mean, this is really shitty writing for her. Like, we're back to that. We had our ups and downs, and now we're, plateauing low, basically.
Yeah.
But here we get once the kissing's over, we're back to towel whipping.
Yep. So Sam finally is going to take a shower, and he's preparing himself mentally to walk through the gauntlet of bullies who are going to whip him with towels.
And we know they're going to do that because they've already started hitting Neil and Bill in slow motion.
Yeah.
And Biff is, we find out, flirting with a gym teacher, like a female gym teacher. So he's not paying attention to any of this, which is...
It's funny because it would have been a perfect way for Sam to avoid taking a shower that day, but he'd already committed to doing it.
And so Alan, the bully, locks him out of the locker room into the main school hallway. My school did not have a open access between the locker rooms and the hallway. It was a tiered system to avoid showing off teen parts. Yeah, basically.
We were in a corner. Our gym was like in a corner. So there might've been a door outside, but certainly not in the locker room, or maybe there was just as an emergency exit, but
Alan then, after locking him out, we then see that Biff is not going to save him. And then Alan reaches out and grabs his towel, Sam's towel.
So this gets to my madness. I was pleased after all of this shitty classic rock to have One Step Beyond playing as Sam boldly streaks through the school. And it's so funny. I love the little oval that they have covering his butt.
Over his business. Yeah.
It was so cute. So he's running and one step beyond, and I'm like skanking in my chair. I'm having so much fun. Madness makes everything better. So that was really fun for me. And he's trying to avoid Cindy. So he sees a bunch of people and they're like, streaker. And people are cheering him on. Like, this is sort of almost a heroic moment, even though he's mortified. And then he sees Cindy. And another really funny Martin Starr scene is that it cuts back to the door, and Martin Starr pokes his head out. He's like, Sam, Alan's gone. You can come back in now. But Sam is long gone. Sam is long gone at that point. So does he ever make it to the shower? No, he goes back into the gym. And
he goes back in and hides behind the ball.
Yeah, there's that giant ball for whatever reason. I've never seen that in gym class before. That they have been kicking around in a previous scene. And he tells him, the showers are that way. And he runs naked past this female gym teacher and Coach Biff to take a shower. It was silly. It was fun.
Yeah. And then we're resolving the Freaks storyline. The band is back together because, they just have tiffs like this all the time, and it's fine. They're going to go back to having fun. There's what's her face? Not what's her face. What's his face? Nick tells Lindsey that the kiss meant a lot to him. And you can tell very clearly it didn't mean a lot to Lindsey. And then Kim's really thrilled that she's got a fellow slut to hang out with, her word.
You're such a slut. It was so funny.
Does not make Lindsey happy either.
No.
But then the nice punchline is Alan on his seated bike with I don't know what the style is.
It's like a banana seat.
Yeah, but it's got the high back. It's got like the back where you can put your little race flag on it. Like, it was a bike that, they thought was cool for 2 years and has just been used as a nerd bike since. He rolls up on the geeks to make fun of them.
To make fun of Sam for having made him be nude in front of all the students. And he says something like, they had to hire a shrink to talk to all the students who saw you naked.
Except then the jocks drive by, including Cindy, who's like, way to go, Sam, you're a streaker.
And they all
cool.
cheer. They all cheer for Sam in that one moment. And the bully rides away on his bike, calls them losers or something. And,
one of either Bill or Neil says something like, yeah, but we have somebody to walk home with.
Yeah. Who's riding home alone on his bike?
Yeah.
Without any friends. Yeah.
And then we cut to Lindsey putting dry ice in Nick's bucket, which is sort of a metaphor for her life, basically.
And he's like, yeah, put in some more dry ice. And he's going to play that Rush song again. Play that Rush song over and over and over. And she's not thrilled.
No. Nope. So
anything else about that episode? There wasn't any Jeff Rosso in that one.
No, and it was kind of a quick one too, just because the Geeks plot was pure comedy or trauma comedy potential, but then also Lindsey didn't really have an arc because
she was just a support. She was just a support to Nick
for Jason Segel, who's still not there's no resolution with his dad. We don't actually see. Lindsey doesn't get to see the geeks the freaks get back together. So it's just very, I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting detached one.
Yeah.
Whereas the next episode's going to have quite a bit for everyone to do. Looks like my notes are 3 times as long. What's this one called?
This one's called Carded and Discarded. I have it pulled up here. Let's see. So from Wikipedia, Carded and Discarded. Sam, Neil, and Bill befriend Maureen, a new transfer student at McKinley, and the popular crowd starts to show interest in her. So the geeks take her out to an all-you-can-eat dining and attempt to keep from losing her. And Lindsey and the freaks try to buy fake IDs to see the band Feedback perform at a local bar. I don't want to give away the ending because it's pretty fucking funny.
So we'll be doing that in a few minutes. So.
We'll be doing that in a few minutes. Yeah.
So my 3 things are going to be, I'm not going to use guest stars because you did that. So my 3 things will be Frank who pumps gas, Billy Joel, sorry, gotta take it, and Rushmore.
Okay. I'm going to take, I was just having fun in there, which is chronologically first. I'm going to take cameos, and I'm going to take Who Gets Her? Who Gets Her?
Okay.
So the episode starts a very funny scene for Gruber. I was very excited to see this again. Mr. Rosso has all of the freaks for some reason in his office, giving them a pep talk. But what we really come to discover is that he's talking directly to Lindsey with her friends in the room, right? So it's all about living up to your potential. And I know it's hard being a teenager. And he says all of these terrible, awkward things like, I know sometimes you get in the shower and you look down and go like, oh, what are these? What is that? Ugh. And Lindsey kind of squirms in her chair. And then he does the most magical thing ever, which is pulls out his acoustic guitar and sings 18 by Alice Cooper.
Yes, he does.
Perfect way to start this episode. I laughed so hard. When I told you before that Dave Gruber Allen is just one of the most naturally funny people, this is what I meant. I can imagine him coming up, writing this scene himself. I don't know. I think it's so fucking stupid and so fucking funny. I love it so much. Anyway, then the freaks are walking out talking about what a weird experience they just had in Mr. Rosso's office.
But somebody, I think it's Nick, acknowledges that he's good on the guitar. Nick thinks it's cool.
Yeah. Well, Nick is singing along and nobody else is. Nick is singing along. But he also sang along with Millie in the party episode of that Doobie Brothers song too. So he's just really into this. So Mr. Rosso is losing an opportunity to connect with Nick because Mr. Rosso, I think, could connect with Nick and he's just not interested. So they're walking away talking about what a weird experience they just had. And Lindsey's bringing up the rear with Mr. Rosso behind her. And he stops her, pulls her aside. And
he says, you're not one of them, Lindsey. And
Yeah.
she's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so sort of going back on Rosso's whole thing from 2 episodes ago with Daniel and the math teacher, Lindsey's really going to drag herself down if she keeps hanging out with them. And there'll be more mentions to Ivy League colleges in this episode too, like a little bit of a throwaway thing to remind you. But the big thing is Frank, who pumps gas, didn't go to college. So the guy who pumps Rosso's gas didn't go to college. And you're like, okay, it's 1980. How fucking elitist are you being, you high school guidance counselor? Like, it's 1980, man. Like, chill the fuck out. You live in suburban Detroit, right?
Yeah,
like,
and so I understand the device that he's using, the kind of psychological device, because she's naming all of these famous smart people who didn't go to college. Einstein, what's his name, who invented the light bulb. And so he's going to the logical extreme, which is the guy who pumps his gas. But there's a whole lot of in between there too, Rosso. There's a whole lot of in between, and that's okay. That's okay.
Really shitty. It's really weird, and like, because otherwise it's like there's the punchline, the final punchline with him is great, right? And so like it's kind of, neither did some of the people you associate with later, Rosso. Like, what a fucking dick move. And it's one of those things, especially with this episode, which was written by Judd Apatow and Paul Feig, get the credit.
Feig. Yeah.
So, I mean, assuming they didn't Aaron Sorkin it and just take the credit for themselves. And then also Judd Apatow directs it. So I guess I should have said my third point is Judd Apatow's Rushmore. There is some character continuity, like Lindsey and Nick are post-kiss and things like that, and that's a very big deal. But there's also like, no, it doesn't really seem like this is a different Rosso than the one who said you can't, be shitty to Daniel because he's a fucking, because he's not a mathlete or something, right? Like, and then, I mean, I guess the other thing is, or Rosso's just a two-faced piece of shit, which is really upsetting. So there you go.
I just think he's fixated on Lindsey. He just sees her wasting her time with these people who aren't invested in their education.
I also see her wasting her time with those people, but for different reasons.
For different reasons, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, you had told me there were a bunch of guest stars, and then so over family.
So you were looking for guest stars, right?
I was looking for guest stars. Then over family dinner, they give them all away in the opening titles. So the guest stars this episode are going to be. Do you want me to give the names, or should we wait? How do you want to do it? Because you pulled cameos from your thing.
We can.
You want to spoil it?
Well, your list and my list might be different, so I'll add to you. So go ahead.
There's only 3 of them.
Okay.
Kevin Corrigan.
Yep, Kevin Corrigan.
Ben Foster. Mm-hmm. Jason Schwartzman,
yes. But there's also, excuse me, the biology teacher is Trace Beaulieu of Mystery Science Theater fame.
Okay, he looked familiar. Okay.
The owner or the manager of the disco wear store is Joel Hodgson, also Mystery Science Theater.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I didn't know that.
And the waiter at the restaurant is Dave Koechner. Who's very funny. And also Gruber's partner in crime for Naked Trucker and T-Bones. So
cool. So family dinner is going to introduce the parent or dad subplot, which is, are you ready? Do you want to play some pit? You want to play some pit? So dad has decided that he's sick of being treated like an employee by his children, and they're going to have some quality time, damn it, which means they're going to be playing Pit, the stock trading game, this Friday night, no matter what the kids want to do.
So the funniest joke in this scene, obviously, is when they, so what is the game? They're asking him to explain the game. And he's like, so you each have cards and you're across the table from each other, shouting at each other. And Lindsey says something like, so you're going to be sitting at the table shouting at us? And Sam, laughing, says, you do that to us every night. I thought that was so funny. It was so cute. So I loved that part. But yeah, and then dad is mad because the kids have plans and they don't.
Even though the kids don't really have the plans they're going to be doing yet.
Yeah.
We're going to find their plans are going to change. Starting with Sam's sort of. So we go to science class, and in the middle class, in walks a new girl.
Maureen,
whose name I thought was Rain for her first 4 scenes. I'm like, is it a hippie thing? I was like, what are they saying? Oh, it's Maureen. Okay.
Maureen.
She's got long hair. All of the boys stare at her, including some of the other boys in class, but they don't get close-ups. And I'm just kind of like, it was a lot. It was a bit much.
It was like slow motion, her walking to her seat
while a French song plays, only for me to Shazam it to discover Billy Joel did a fucking French song. Okay.
Billy Joel has done too many songs.
And we'll hear a few of them this episode.
All of them this episode.
So yeah,
Christ.
And it's like Cindy's in the class and she notices the boys like open mouth staring at
gawking.
The new girl.
Like it's gawking. Like practically cartoon character, like tongue rolling out of their mouth, eyes, ooga.
Only the 3 geeks in close up, but then I was like, don't the other boys in the class have a similar reaction? And one of them doesn't, but then another one's just like, ooh. And I was like, in a long shot, and I was like, okay, So
how awkward for that actress. Like, okay, here's the deal. You're 15. You're going to be walking through this classroom, and all of these boys are going to be staring at you and ogling you. God,
it was 1999. They told her this is what was going to make her valuable as a human being for the rest of her life. And then James Franco introduced himself. Like, what are you talking about? It was fucking horrific. Oh my God. It's like when you look at all this shit of people who like, hey, why did that one woman only appear in one movie for Miramax? And you're like, oh, because Harvey Weinstein tried to rape her. That's why. She quit after Harvey Weinstein tried to rape her. Or terrible.
She somehow beat off his, that was a bad phrasing. She somehow rejected his advances and she got fired. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like, no, it was fucking terrible. And it's like, this is a scene out of, there's a movie called, I haven't seen it in years, many, many years now, but there's a movie by the guy who made Phantasm, Don Coscarelli. I think I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of his last name, Boner. And Don Boner Coscarelli, he made a movie called Kenny and Company. It was like about a bunch of tween boys in the 70s, like learning about girls, figuring out the house down the street wasn't haunted, but it was like really shit. It wasn't like, it was very PG or, G plus for the era, right? It was like, and this is the kind of like, oh, this girl comes in with her flowing hair and, whatever. At its best, that would be what it is. But then they just drag it out into, and we're going to get into other aspects of just the fucked upness of it. But yeah. So there's also the Neil being a little bit of a creep in a bit too, which has some context when you think about how much Neil liked the seemingly profoundly disturbing porno they watched a few episodes ago. But that also doesn't come back up. And this is actually the episode where I'm like, oh, we totally have forgotten that Neil is in love with Lindsey. But this new girl, Maureen, is sitting by herself at lunch at their table.
And Bill's got a great line in this, like, we don't own it, but this is where we sit every day. Like, she's like, is this your table? We don't own it. No shit, Bill. No shit.
Very, very cute. Very cute Martin Starr. No notes on Martin Starr. But they sit with her and they tell these stories about weird shit that their teachers have, like injuries their teachers have sustained. There's a traumatic sort of proto stand your ground Florida story. And it's like, oh, cool. We didn't care about things in 1999 or 1980. And then it's going to sort of cut to the freaks where they find out there's a band playing that they want to see. but they're going to need fake IDs. And so Kim's already got a fake ID. And there's something about her being like 27 and they make a crack about her looking old or something and things like that.
No, so the ID says she's 24 and
okay.
Lindsey's kind of like, it says you're 24. And she's like, I'm mature. And they all kind of laugh because I don't think Busy Phillips necessarily looks like she's 16, 17 years old, but I don't think she looks old, like whatever.
But then somebody says she looks
later,
30.
That's at the end or near the end. Yeah.
That's for the statutory rape joke.
Yep.
So, we also at dinner, Lindsey got a present from somebody in the family for her college fund.
Yeah. $300.
And so she's got this cash and she's going to loan it to her new friends. And I was like, loan it to these guys. You are never seeing that again. Is that the plot of this episode? We're going to talk about how
you can never get your money back from these.
They're never going to give their money back because, and so she's going to loan them money for fake IDs. Daniel's got a hookup. And then Daniel tells the story about how he lost his fake ID because he didn't know his star sign. And so there's a sort of a funny, even Daniel knows astrology is bullshit sort of moment here. But then back to the geeks and Maureen hanging out in school, and Cindy tries saying hi to Sam, and Sam's like, no way.
Well,
I got my girl.
So I've been saying that Cindy the whole time is a good egg. She's a good kid. But this Maureen girl is somebody that they have a genuine connection with. They have things in common with, and they can actually talk to. And I think Sam even mentions Cindy's scary. Maureen is approachable. They don't use that word, but the honest truth is Maureen is approachable, and Cindy approaches them, but they feel like they can approach Maureen, right? She's friendly and outgoing and a little bit dorky, right? She wants to shoot rockets off with them or whatever later.
I mean, and also she's not wearing a cheerleading outfit in every one of her scenes.
Right.
So, but now we are going to get to our first cameo, our first opening titles credited cameo.
Yes. So they go to the mall, I assume.
The mall?
It looked like the mall.
It's a early 80s mall.
To a store that sells clothes for hip disco guys. And we find out that James Franco's connection, Daniel's connection for fake IDs is Mr. Jason Schwartzman, who I love. This is the one that I was like, I'm not sure if he's problematic. I'm sure he is, but I'm not going to do the search because I don't want that fall from grace right now.
Nothing's popping in my head.
Good. Whew. I don't need another hero to fall. Not right now. Need all the heroes I can get. So, and he is kind of sleazy and gross in the perfect way. And agrees to get them fake IDs, but he can't not hit on Lindsey, right? He's trying to hit on Lindsey because she's cute. And that's her worth. Her value is that she's cute. Except she also has the money, I guess, too. And I can't even think what happens next. My brain is fried.
There's a funny bit where he stares at them to memorize what they look like, but everything he says is brown hair, brown eyes.
Yep.
Brown hair, brown eyes.
On all three of them.
And then beautiful eyes or beautiful hair, I think, to Lindsey.
Yeah.
But then they give him half up. She gives him half up front, and he's going to get the IDs, genuine Canadian driver's licenses.
Yeah.
So
and then Joel Hodgson with a really bad wig comes and interrupts them to have Howie. I think the character's name is Howie. Get back to work. It was.
What's weird about that is the boss, the Joel Hodgson guy, is a dick to him.
He's a total dick.
When they come in, he's like, Howie, you need to go help those people.
Yeah.
And you're like, so you told him to go help those potential those assuming customers.
And then now you're
fucking
telling him to go
dick. Yeah.
unpack some new shipment that came in. Yeah. It's, it's just an excuse to have Joel on the show. Josh Weinstein, who's a producer and one of the writers of the show, is an MST3K guy. So it's sort of a reuniting of sorts.
So then we cut to the geeks after school. They're going to shoot their rockets off. There's a bit about how Bill's got a big rocket.
That's pretty funny too. He's like, yeah, so what? I brought my big rocket. Whatever. I've got a big rocket. Whatever.
You want me to cut my big rocket in half? And so Maureen runs over to hang out with them as Rosalinda's Eyes by Billy Joel plays. And they're like, wow, she's running to get to us. And
it's slow motion again, right?
Slow motion again. And it's basically Judd Apatow's Rushmore. It's like what Judd Apatow thinks Rushmore is. There's a funny bit where Bill's big rocket breaks on liftoff.
And they all laugh, except for Bill.
Yeah.
Poor Bill.
Poor Bill. And yeah, it's like a fucking Billy Joel montage, basically. It's like if you watch Rushmore and you're like, shit, what this needs is dick jokes and Billy Joel. Like, that's basically it. So there you go. But then we cut to Kim and the freaks, and I think they're just walking along, and Kim and Lindsey are talking about Kim is telling Lindsey that this Friday night with the fake IDs is going to be Lindsey's first real date with Nick.
Yeah.
And Lindsey says something like, we only kissed once. It's not like a big thing. Where meanwhile, Nick is telling the boys
who are like 10 feet behind them. Yeah.
That, they're in a very mature relationship.
Yeah. They don't like to put labels on things,
and it's just like, good God, like it's going to get even worse for Lindsey having any agency in her love life in a bit, but like,
it's pretty awkward. And, I know you don't have any sympathy for the character, but I kind of do. It's sort of like, clearly there's no communication. He wants more. She's not interested. And nobody's talking to each other about it.
Well, I have more sympathy for him in this because he's at least not as rapey as some people will be, but
Yeah.
But let's talk about the other great boys in this episode, because the next scene starts with a very nice Bill explaining that true love is being able to fart in front of your wife. And Sam is mortified at this idea. And I think Neil at least gets it, but Bill's like, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Hold in farts?
Yeah, go outside every time you have to blast one, I think.
Right. So they're having this conversation where they're trying to imagine being married. And I thought this was interesting because I thought Mom overheard it. So I thought that when she talks to Dad in a bit, she's going to like talk to him about this. She doesn't, but yeah. I thought that was kind of potentially interesting. And then they talk about who they're like, well, I thought Sam liked Cindy. And that's when Sam says, yeah, but Maureen talks to us.
Yeah.
So they all
admit,
too scary.
They all admit that they have crushes on Maureen.
So what are they going to do? They're going to play it like they did who had to wait in line for Empire Strikes Back tickets. They're going to pull a name from a hat.
Yeah. So this is
the girl.
This is my who gets her point, where the rest of this episode is just, it's not even that they're vying for her affections, because again, she has no agency in any of this. It's literally like, no, I picked my name, or we picked my name. So she's my girlfriend now, or she's going to be my girlfriend now. Like, so they don't take into consideration, like maybe she doesn't like you like that.
I feel like if this were the second or third episode, I'd be far more just, but I'm just kind of like, yeah, this is just sort of par for the course. It's going to be disappointing because it gets to a very interesting resolution that they resolve this sort of part of it, but they could have done more with it and made it more interesting, giving her a character. Like we're going to stop we're done with Lindsey or Maureen's character development at this point. Which
not quite, but it's still along the same line. So I guess it doesn't go further, but she is still a character and she's funny and she's nice and you can see why these boys would have a crush on her, but they also just don't even take into consideration the fact that she might not. So this is the other thing. It's this idea that men and women or boys and girls can't be just friends. And I understand that teenagers' hormones are raging, but at the same time, like, why can't they just be friends?
Well, I mean, at the same time, we say that, but that's also not reality, right? Like there are plenty of examples of, and I mean, some of it, you know, you can say it's hormones raging, but a lot of it is just toxic masculinity and being raised to think that women are rewards, or prey, that sort of thing. Like that's raging in 1980 and it's raging in 1999, right? Like, so then they pick from the hat and Bill wins. And that was kind of cute that Bill's note said Bill the stud. Bill the stud.
And then they find out that he had wet it with his spit so he could find it when he pulled it. Ugh, that's disgusting. So but at least he was the one pulling it.
Yeah. It also is not going to matter. But mom and dad have a conversation about how
if you love something, set it free.
Yeah, it's about the game night. And so dad feels shamed is my note. I don't remember all of that. But and then we have another weird Rosso and Lindsey scene. This one's funnier, but also kind of shitty, where he has Ivy League brochures for her.
Some of them are in color, Andrew. Some of them are in color.
That's a big deal. And he makes some crack about how he can just visit her in prison instead because of what she's not gonna
and she's
go
like,
to college.
Well, see you then. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Bye.
That was kind of like, that was weird because like that would have been an okay subplot for Lindsey. And that's not where it goes. And it goes a much better place than it could, right? But like, that was fun. That had more potential for character development than what she ends up having. But then we get to the Geeks and Maureen, and it's time for the Geeks. Bill's got to go tell Maureen that she's his girlfriend or he's her boyfriend now or whatever. And Bill's
I don't know what the plan is, but yeah.
Bill's nervous about it, to which Neil says, well, you can let me have her. And
I know how to talk to women. Huh?
Like, the thing is like, if you never resolve the creepiness of your characters, but you presumably want people to watch every week, like the audience is going to remember that, like,
and they've completely abandoned.
Don't reset.
They've completely abandoned him doing impressions too, which I find disappointing. I think that's one of the most charming parts of his personality. So he's really good at doing impressions. But
okay, so here's where we get Ben Foster. Foster's cameo.
So they turn a corner and see Maureen talking to Vicky. Vicky is one of the cheerleaders, and they panic. So suddenly their plan to make her Bill's girlfriend is gone because they need to, what does Sam say? Like, they're pod people. Once they get in their claws into her, she's never going to talk to us again.
That's not Sam. That's Neil.
Oh, Neil. That's what I meant.
He does a whole arm reaching out from.
It's confusing because the actor's name is Sam Levine. So I get confused. But yeah, it's Neil who says that. And their plan to distract Vicky is to have Eli, who we saw in the first episode, the pilot.
Yeah.
Who is mentally challenged. They convince Eli that Vicky doesn't like Three's company, and they get him a little hot and bothered about it. And so he's got to go explain to Vicky why Three's Company is the best show on television. And in doing that, distract her, and then they can grab Maureen and whisk her away, save her from having another friend who might make them, put a separation between them. So what do you have to say about that?
I think I said, wow. That's what I said.
Yeah. It's pretty.
It's not the same kind of shitty bullying that we saw the Eli characters suffer in the first episode, but it is I don't know if it's cruel. I don't know where the cruelness is going to come. Like, I don't not evaluate the cruelness, or just the issue that they're using. The show is using this mentally challenged character as a prop for this kind of thing. It's fucked up, and it's the kind of thing that white guys will tell you why it's okay for 45 minutes and take no comments.
Yeah.
And it's also something that there's some development on later where it could have actually been a. We'll talk about the lost third act of this episode where, the resolution actually provides the characters with some real development stuff. But it's fucked up. It's pretty fucked up. I wasn't thrilled with it. And then we cut away to Jason Schwartzman, thank goodness, showing up to have a little bit of 1980 making fun of Asian people type thing, where he has come to the school. And my first note on that so this is a grown ass man hanging around a high school.
Yeah, I think this is before the time when you had to go to the office and check in at the office.
Yeah. I'm like, Michigan, sure. He's there to pick up his girlfriend, who's his 13-year-old cousin. What? Is it untrue? Is it untrue?
It happens everywhere. It happens everywhere with Michigan.
Cool.
Never happened in Illinois, huh?
I can't comment on that without sounding privileged and elitist. So moving on, none of the IDs look like them because, let's see. So Seth Rogen gets a Hispanic guy whose name is Jesus Garcia, but the joke is they keep saying Jesus. So cool. That'll be a joke. I mean, for
it'll come back
decades to
around.
come.
It comes back around in this episode too.
It does. And then the other boys get Vietnamese.
But they say it looks Chinese, yeah.
And Schwartzman's like, there's a lot of Vietnamese people in Canada, man. What do you want?
And I don't know if it's funny, but the fact that he was looking for somebody with brown hair and brown eyes, and he got a Hispanic guy, and we don't see what Lindsey says, do we? So, and then two Chinese guys, or Vietnamese guys, sorry, who presumably have brown hair and brown eyes. I don't know if that's funny, but if it was a joke, it would make the joke work.
Yeah. I don't know. Somebody could make it funny, possibly.
Yeah. And we never see Lindsey's, which I think is disappointing. Oh no. Yeah, we never do. No. Yeah, we never do.
No.
So they decide they're not going to take those IDs because it's bullshit, except for Ken is going to take Jesus and try to make it work. Right.
And so there's a bit of is this going to be an issue or not, where Schwartzman doesn't want to give back the money, and then it's not an issue and he gives back the money, which doesn't make any sense because Lindsey paid in bulk and Ken didn't pay for any of his. So how Schwartzman, is he making change? Doesn't matter. And then he leaves, but says, come on by, we're having a sale on dress shirts or something. And so Lindsey's like, oh wait, I actually might know somebody. End the scene, cut over to the geeks with Maureen now at lunch about to sit with Vicky, and the geeks have to ambush her. And then they have a conversation about how the skin on the pudding is good, which is fucking gross. And we find out that Vicky has invited Maureen to a party on Saturday. So this is going to be important.
Yes.
And then Lindsey's connection turns out to be Millie's cousin, Toby, who has been to jail.
Who nobody in the family talks to anymore because he's such a bad seed. Yeah.
He's a bad seed, and they are judgmental Christians. Though we will find out that
he's a creep.
He's a fucking creeper. So
played beautifully.
The freaks go to visit cousin Toby, played by Kevin Corrigan, who has he ever played someone that you should be left alone in a room with?
No, I don't think so. But I love him
he's
for that. I
know.
love
I wonder
him.
if he's a sweet guy. I just wonder, or is he just like, who knows? Whatever.
I don't know.
So he lives in a shack. He's got chickens. And at one point, Nick is playing with a rooster. And Kevin Corrigan's like, don't play with that rooster. That's not some rooster you could just play with.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, it's probably because he fights them. So that's fucking gross.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one person at a time has to come in to get their fake ID done. And so Daniel goes first. And he's like snooping around the house, which I found interesting because it's really naive. Like when you go buy drugs from somebody, because that's
it is implied that he is also a drug dealer.
Yes.
Yeah.
When they get there, he's like, pharmacy's closed, I'm out of stock.
Yeah.
But they want fake IDs. But yeah, so Daniel, who seemingly has been the, street smart kid until this point, is just like poking around his fucking house, including
making comments too, like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it's like, dude, don't stooge yourself off. If you're going to snoop, but don't like make it obvious that that's what you're doing.
Yeah. And then we discover that the fake ID setup is actually, I don't know if this would work, but it's actually pretty elaborate and cool.
Yeah.
Is a life-size, or not a life-size, a jumbo ID card where the kid stands in the window area of the card and they take
where
a
the picture would
be,
yeah,
and laminate the thing. And Daniel's like, so I could just get all this from an arts and crafts store. And Corrigan's like, no, man, you need the laminator. You got to be a corporation to get a laminator.
Yeah.
So I was like, was it really this easy to make fake IDs back in the day? So then we cut to the geeks consulting with Harris about what to do with Maureen, their Maureen problem. They're about to lose her to the cool kids.
Yeah.
And Harris is like, there's only one thing you can do. You've got to show her a better time.
Yep.
And what's the only better time?
All you can eat ribs, baby.
All you can eat ribs, which is very wholesome.
All you can eat ribs. And they're all like, oh my God, why didn't we think of this? As if this is an actual genius plan. Why didn't we think of this?
Why didn't we think of this? So then we cut back to Lindsey and Nick in with Kevin Corrigan.
Somehow Nick wormed his way in. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
And Kevin Corrigan's coming on to Lindsey saying things like, when you were a little kid, I never thought you'd grow up this hot.
You were cute, but man, I never thought you'd get this hot. It's like, ew. And he's being real pushy and aggressive, asking for her number. And finally, Nick is like, hey man, that's my girlfriend. Don't talk to her like that. Like, hey. And he's like, nah, no, she's not. And Lindsey kind of like hesitantly like, yeah, I'm his girlfriend. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what this situation is. Yep. So it does a couple of things. One, it gets him off her case. And two, now they're boyfriend and girlfriend, right? This from Nick is a legitimate thing. Like, hey, that's my girlfriend. And from Lindsey, it's an excuse to get this creep off of her back. So again, a miscommunication because of this stressful situation. So I feel like it's gonna take a bad turn for Lindsey. She has lost her agency again. She
hasn't had any for episodes, so
got dug in deeper for this, unfortunately.
So then, Kevin Corrigan's a dick and raises the price about the fake IDs. So basically, at this point, Lindsey's out of that money.
Yeah.
Right? The fake IDs have gone from $40 to $100. So that's $200 for those. Daniel's was $40 plus Ken's fake ID. So Lindsey's got to be out of money at this point.
Yeah.
But we don't actually talk about that. Instead, we cut to Kim looking at Daniel's fake ID in the car and discovering that on his real ID, he's 18. What was drinking age in Michigan in 1980?
I think it was 18. I don't know when it turned 21, but 18 was legal in most states, I think.
Yeah, it was 18 in Illinois at that time. I worked with guys who told stories about riding their bike to buy beer and shit while they were in high school. Like
there was some point when Department of Transportation, the federal Department of Transportation, like was refusing funding if states didn't raise their drinking age to 21. And so that all happened in a big wave somewhere, or like all across the country. Anybody who wasn't already at 21 went up to 21. I just don't remember when that is. That's boring. Great. Boring fact for the podcast.
Well, it's better than where we go, which was me thinking that the point of this conversation was that Daniel could already go to the bar. So why the fuck is he getting a fake ID? No, it's that Kim doesn't know how old her boyfriend is. And so he's 2 years older than her. And now, so she's actually jailbait.
And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't make a habit of Googling the age of consent in certain states. But I think if you're 18 and you're in high school, it's okay. It's when you're no longer in high school that somebody could potentially be jailbait. But it depends on how old she is, I guess.
Yeah. And 1980, they don't live in Idaho or Utah, so it's not like 13 or whatever. But
yeah.
13 if you're related anyway, because women are just eventually to be passed down to their male cousins. But so that was sort of not a great scene.
It's supposed to be funny and like cute, and because they're like smooching and talking about it, and it's sort of
how hot it is, and it's just like no. And I don't think it's not actually even because it's James Franco. It's just not a thing that's cool. Like
cool.
So then we cut to it's Friday night. We cut to mom and dad playing pit,
hollering across the table at each other.
Yep. And so Bill and the boys get together because there's a scene where Bill talks about how he wanted to play pit.
Yeah.
And Neil doesn't believe him. And that's where I made my note of, Neil doesn't fucking care about Lindsey anymore. Cool. And so when the kids all go out, and dad has no reaction to this. And I feel like there's a cut scene where dad actually resolved that he wasn't going to fucking yell at the kids for not hanging out, because we don't see him ever tell them that they don't have to.
He gets upset on his own time, right? Like they leave and he's like, I told you, blah, 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 blah. They don't respect me. No. And then mom just sort of, mom suggested they have sex.
Yes.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yes. So they're going to have a little sex is what she says.
The joke here is a great physical joke. Dad goes for the living room and mom's like going towards the bedroom, the opposite direction. It's like, nope, in bed, in the bedroom. And he's turns.
Like, oh, okay. And like, where? It's nice that you thought the living room. I was like, does he want to do it outside?
In the garage, in the car? I have no idea. It could have been anywhere.
Interesting.
The opposite of the bedroom is the joke. So the geeks take Maureen out for ribs, which is where we see Dave Keckner, the waiter. They kind of it's a very small part, and it's not.
He's funny. He's really
he's funny, but it's not particularly comedic. I mean, Maureen kind of has the gumption to be like, so I hear that the service here is really slow. So
because the boys tell her that. So Neil tells her that. But
she confronts the waiter like, I hear that you're going to be really slow because you don't want us to eat all the ribs. And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't own this place.
I don't care what you eat. Yeah. So they do that. And then the punchline of that scene is that he does give them the huge bread basket to fill them up.
Yeah.
Which was one of the complaints earlier. And then over this scene is playing Don't Ask Me Why by Billy Joel. Laying on the Billy Joel.
Too much.
A little bit too much. And we're not done yet. So now are you done? Because we don't actually see the all you can eat, which is disappointing. No,
we don't. We see them eating ribs, but we don't see, there's not like a montage scene of them growing increasingly full. And at the end of the scene, they don't, which comes after this, I think, they don't seem particularly stuffed. No.
Instead, we cut to the bar where the freaks are showing their ID to get in. The the bouncers are talking about Different Strokes, which had me Googling when Different Strokes was on. It was on in 78. And I'm like, I guess high schoolers watch different. I didn't watch Different Strokes in reruns by the time I've never had any desire to go back. I mean,
I feel like I did, but
in high school?
Not in high school. No.
Yeah. So the bouncers would have been in high school. So I thought that was a little weird, but whatever. What else is a black guy on this show going to talk about besides Different Strokes?
Yeah.
So they're carding the guys. They card Seth Rogen, and there's a funny callback to the
Jesus
having shaved his mustache, and the bouncer's like, you shouldn't have shaved.
You look better with it.
Yeah. And then Daniel gets carded, it's fine. Nick gets carded, it's fine. I don't think we see Lindsey Lindsey goes in, or not Lindsey, Kim goes in first, because
Kim goes in first.
She's got a fake ID already.
And I think the implication is you've got beautiful young ladies and you're not going to card them.
That's what the implication is with Lindsey. I think this is the implication of this scene with Lindsey. They don't even card her. They just send her on in, and she's like,
she's expecting, like, I understand this feeling. You're kind of expecting to be carded. And so when you don't, you're like, oh, okay. Okay. And then you just go, right? It's sort of like this awkward thing. But of course she's nervous because she's trying to get away with something because she's not actually 18. And there's a funny little joke before he lets other people in. After Lindsey goes in, he's like, those are the worst fake IDs I've ever seen. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And then they get in, and it turns out that the lead singer of the band they're all there to see, that Nick really wanted to see, is Mr. Rosso.
Yeah. Jeff Rosso out on stage. First song that they play, 18 by Alice Cooper. And the freaks are all speechless at this.
Until Nick starts rocking out with them.
But their jaws are all on the floor because it's Mr. Rosso, which is funny. I think it's funny. Yep. And they cut back to him later, and he's playing keyboard, right? It's perfect.
But
it's so
before
great.
that, we have Maureen and the Geeks. Her dad is coming to pick her up from the rib place. They're going to they'll do it again sometime. She makes a note on the board that says she changes pan-fried, whatever, trout or whatever the fuck, salmon, to pan-fried butt.
Yeah,
which the boys think is funny.
I think it's funny.
It's funny. It's fine. But that's it. Are they ever going to see her again? They don't know.
Yeah.
Did all you can eat ribs work? But then we cut to the bar with Rosso on the keyboard, and he says, let's have a call out to this very special guest in our audience.
Whatever the name of their
high school.
Yeah, whatever the name of their band is.
The band Creation.
Yeah, and Creation, right.
Rosso knew they were coming the whole time somehow.
Or he just saw them. I think he just saw them in the crowd. It's a small, intimate venue. He probably just saw them. And somehow when he's singing these songs and playing his keyboard, he came up with a way to humiliate them utterly.
Well, when the bouncer makes the fake ID comment, he says they must be desperate if we're letting in these fake IDs. I was like, did Rosso know they would be showing up somehow?
Oh, yeah.
And he does a special call out to the band's manager, Lindsey, and they were about to get their beers and shots. I thought one of the kids had already taken a shot, but instead they're going to be brought their finest pop on the house. And
I love that Rosso calls the waitress by her name. He's like, Sue, we can't just serve the beer. A round of the finest pops. It was so funny. It was so silly. But again, this is him being just naturally kind of amusing.
Yes. And so that's it for their storyline, right? And the end is the next day in school with some more Billy Joel, or the next Monday in school, I guess. Maureen is going to start sitting with Vicky. And she invites the boys over to sit with the four girls. And the boys are like, no, we're going to stay here. And they have these farewell speeches. You know, one of them warns her about Vicky. One of them says jocks are only after one thing. One of them says, we'll be here if you ever need us. And Maureen's like, I'm just sitting over at this other table. I'm not moving back to Florida, guys.
Yeah.
As Rosalinda's eyes plays in the background. And she looks back as she goes over, and then Eli's looking for a place to sit, and they invite him over to sit down and
talk about Three's Company.
Talk about Three's Company. And it's kind of nice. If the episode went on to, resolve that Maureen can be their friend while still hanging out with the jocks, or that they can be nice to Eli because the reality is they have the same fucking interests, whether they like it or not, would be a thing. But it just stops there. So I didn't like sort of truncated character development.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not as bad as it could be.
Exactly.
It's not like they bully Eli, right?
Right. They sit down and they ask him questions. Like, oh, what was the last night's episode of Three's Company? I didn't catch it, So. And Joyce DeWitt, do you have anything to say about Joyce DeWitt?
Bill's like, does he say she's hot?
I think so.
Which I think, because Bill really doesn't have much to do, even though he's Bill the stud this episode. So Eli starts talking, and it devolves quickly into blonde or brunette.
When life was so simple, how could you decide between a blonde and a brunette?
But Bill's initial response is Joyce DeWitt's hot. And I was just like, it's so interesting. It's such an interesting, when you take into account the bionic woman thing, Bill's just got a lot of facets to him. It's cool.
And
also,
Dallas.
I saw Joyce DeWitt. Yeah. I saw Joyce DeWitt at a Comic-Con the year before everybody started going to Comic-Cons.
Mm-hmm.
So she was one of the first signing booth, not genre celebrities, but sitcom celebrities. But I always thought Joyce DeWitt was too good for Three's Company. So yeah.
I think they were all too good for Three's Company. No, I do.
I don't know. Well, we have 7 years of that we can watch and decide.
Next podcast, Two's Company.
The spinoffs. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. They're okay episodes. They problematic with objectifying women, but also it's 1999 it's 1999 white guys. What else were they gonna do? It's a bummer. It's a bummer that Paul Feig created the show with a female protagonist and writes her completely ancillary to male supporting characters.
Yeah.
So,
well, next week's episodes, Girlfriends and Boyfriends, also written by Paul Feig and Patty Lynn. So I'm going to assume that's a female presenting writer. Yes. She pronouns on Wikipedia. And then We've Got Spirit. So that'll be fun. Oh, We've Got Spirit's a good one. Okay. Hopefully that's a good one. Hopefully you like it. Anyway.
I feel like I was a bit more bullish on these episodes than you were. You seemed more disappointed than I am, whereas I'm just it is what it is.
Well, I just hate the Billy Joel. It was too much Billy Joel this last one, and the whole geek storyline kind of creeped me out. But I like the band. I like all the Rosso stuff in this one, and then the last episode, it was fine. The Bill moment and the madness moment were it for me. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks everyone. We'll be back.
All right.